Don't be afraid when opportunities open up and you feel that you can do it. Do it.
This is From Paint to Purpose, a podcast by FCP Services, where we believe people drive growth, exploring topics related to company culture, leadership, and construction industry insights. Now your host.
Welcome, everybody. Today we have Fernando Garcia as our guest. Hi, Fernando. How are you?
I'm doing great. How's everybody doing? Thank you for having me.
Pretty good. Yeah, of course. It's always fun to have people that I know in the past and, kind of seeing where they've been, how they've grown and all that. Tell me. Okay. I mean, I already know a little about your background, but, tell our audience what you do and pretty much your story.
Yeah. How far back do you want me to go? I can go as far as my birth, I guess. But I'll start where I'm currently at. I'm an operations manager for a value-added services team at Logitech. In the last year, we have seen a great boom in the need for devices that enhance the experience for work from home, education from anywhere, right? We have been key in providing the webcams, the speakers, the keyboards, mice, right, to give the ability to be able to interact through video conferencing. And so we have had a very busy year. We have broken records in regards to sales, in regards to operational activities that we're doing. So for me, it really has been it's difficult to say, right, but it's a blessing in disguise for us, right? On a personal level, it's been a really good year. And it's contradicting because I look out the window and I know what's happening and what has happened in the world to the world this last year, right? So more importantly, more than anything, I feel very blessed, to be in the position that I'm in, and humbled to have found the opportunity and to land where I am today, right? I think I look back at all the experiences and all the risk, and it's been worth it.
What are some valuable lessons that you've learned along the way to get where you are now?
I think sacrifice has been one for sure. Going back to my beginnings, right? And you're asking me, tell us a little bit about your story. I'm Mexican. I was born in Mexico and raised there till I was about 10 years old. I migrated to the United States when I was 9, 10. And I came to the country, right, with the objective of many other people have, right? I'm a DACA recipient, and I'm proud to say that because of the accomplishments that I've had. We came to the United States with the hope and dream that everybody has, right, to reach and achieve the American dream. I'm still searching, but I think I'm close. And so I look back at everything that has happened in my life. I have reminders of what it takes to get here. I said goodbye to family members that I never got to see again. And during my working experiences, I've had opportunities that I really enjoyed. I've worked with companies thanks to my work permit, such as Red Bull, Apple, Tesla, now Logitech, right? It sounds good and looks good on paper, but there certainly have been sacrifices that I had to make, right? And for example, at Apple, I really enjoyed working there, but it didn't really align with the career development that I wanted to do, right? Working at the retail store was not something that I saw myself doing for the long term. And then moving on to Tesla, right, where I think I became passionate about seeing what was happening at that place and working for Mida Industries, which was the contract at the time, right, and seeing what was happening there and the people that were working to make it happen, and as it relates to the other stuff that was happening in the background, right, related to immigrant workers being let go because of their status, all of those things, and having to let go of that. Ultimately, I think of the sacrifices that I took to stand here, right? To a certain extent, I can almost compare it to standing on a mountain, right? And I can look back at everybody got left behind, everybody that didn't reach the top. And it's because of those experiences, all those sacrifices, that I can count on the success that I have today.
What are your future goals? I know right now you're in operations. What is your next step?
One, I want to get away from operations.
Okay.
My position it's been a joy. I've learned a lot. I have grown as a person quite a bit. When they pitched it to me, and I was still at Might Industries, they had one of the things that was difficult for me to do initially was to accept a 6-month contract with Logitech, and I didn't
Right.
think that it aligned well with my work permit. I didn't think it aligned well with my long-term plans, right? And that ultimately ended up turning into a one year experience as a contractor, being offered a position, the opportunity to move to Memphis, right, as full-time employee. And I wasn't going to say no. Initially, yes, I'm not going to lie to you, I thought I'm not going to move to Memphis, but here we are.
Yeah.
um, and I've learned a lot. I know quite a bit about logistics. I know quite a bit about project management, warehousing. But the more I look at it, I've also kind of had to take a step back and reassess my values as it relates to work ethic and how much work you got to put in. I want to make sure that my work-life balance is respected, because I think it's a huge thing now, especially with the dynamic and how things are changing in the United States, right? I really value my time, right? So as far as the company is concerned, I'm going to go ahead and give you 100% on the clock. But
Hmm.
outside of that, it's my time. And operations, the way that it handles business activities, it's 24/7. I was
Right.
just having a conversation with one of our warehouse managers that manages our main DC over in Olive Branch, Mississippi. And he's always told me, you need to go in sales, because here in operations, I don't find a lot of peace outside of my work time. And that's true, right? Because you have to be responsive, you have to be available, you have to understand that globally activities are happening, right? So you have to be available for China time and India time and Canada time and all of these different time zones. So it's a challenge for him to kind of have to disconnect, and I can see that, right? Because I
Hmm.
work with these people side by side. So my number one goal is to get away from operations. Number two, it has to align with something that I want to do, in the sense that I want to get some fulfillment. I want to be able to say and feel that what I'm doing is making a difference in the world, right? And I think that's shaped by my background, by the way I was raised, by the things I experienced, right? And COVID really showed everything that was fractured already, in my opinion,
Hmm.
regarding the different structural systems of education, social services, and you also have the way that systematic racism is shown on a grand scale, right? It's always been there, but you didn't understand how systematic it was, right? So my next step is going to be aligned with, one, getting away from operations, two, making sure that it aligns with some of those values that I have. Um, and three, I think one of the things that's also important is that I want to make some money. I know,
Right.
and I know at the end of all of that, that can also contradict the first two items, right? But
Hmm.
where I come from, right, I can probably stand again on that mountain and look back, and I think for me the mentality had to switch when I realized I was making more than my parents, right? And I was like, okay, the sky is really the limit, right?
Hmm. I want to circle back to work-life balance. Being in a new like generation for us, that's super important. But I've seen previous bosses, and they would be putting in 12-hour days. Why do you think that's important?
To put 12-hour days.
No, to have a work-life balance.
Um, because time is so short, right? Especially with COVID hitting. Not that I really needed that lesson, because I think I already understood it, where I was coming from, right? But
Hmm.
you probably know this, right? I think in the beginning you really had to put in the time and excel and go above and beyond. But and that's true. I will have to say that at certain times in your life you have to go out and do the time, right?
Right.
You have to do boot camp.
Hmm.
You do have to do that to get some validation, to get some experience, right? To be able to get to the next level and know what you're talking about to a certain extent.
Hmm.
But work-life balance is so important, because I'll share with you my schedule right now. I basically molded this opportunity the way that I wanted to do it, and it runs the way that I run it,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And that's all thanks to my boss. She managed me from the Netherlands, right? And so that's also a unique experience. But she let me kind of be the owner in this position, right? So my schedule right now, I start 7 a.m. Usually I wake up between 5:36, depending on if I'm going on a run in the morning or regardless. If I got a puppy in December and I have to take care of him, so potty training starts early. And so usually I show up, and again, going back to the fact that I've been blessed, I've been able to work from home for the last year. We just started getting permission to go back to the office, but even then, I used to like to be at the office by 7 a.m. so that I could be there from 7 to 4. Right? I think it's a good schedule to have, and after that, I can commute back and forth between home and work. But you lose a lot of commute time due to commute time, right? And I experienced this in California quite a bit, right? And times you're losing an hour, 2 hours. And I know people lose more, right, on your commute. So now you're looking at, even if on my best day I was getting to the office at 7, on a good day I would be getting home close to 5, right? Then I have to get home, I have to make dinner. Now that I have a puppy, I have to walk him. I have to take a shower and mentally prepare for the next day. If you look at how many hours you really have left at the end of the day, right, and in order to input also additional recreational activities, go out with your friends for a drink, for dinner, go to the gym, you really don't have that much time left, right? So in that sense, I became very aware of like how I spend my time and what things I want to do to enhance how much I can grow as a person, right? And looking at that has been key, and understanding that work-life balance is a thing. And here's the biggest thing for me. At the end of the day, regardless of the job that you have, you could be gone the next day and they will continue
Right.
running. That train will not stop, right? So for me, it's the same, right? I like to treat it the same with the same. And I'm at a level now in regards to how much I know, how much I've done, that if a company comes along and says, hey, your services are no longer needed, by all means, I will see you later and I'll find something else. That won't be a problem. The last thing that will happen to me is that I'll sit at home feeling sorry for myself. I would gladly go and take, going back to boot camp. If I need to go back to boot camp, I will do so.
What are some steps you've taken to make sure that your work balance is on point?
Again, I molded the
Okay.
position, right? I've been here for 3 years. When I started, it was kind of up to me to determine how I wanted to run it. I run on that schedule 7 to 4. And I'm pretty self-sufficient, so I get my stuff done. I know when to prioritize it. That doesn't mean that I don't ever stay past 4, right? I want to make that clear, because there are days where you have to put in a little bit of time. There are things that are happening,
Right.
so you have to make yourself available. But at the end of the day, that's the way that I molded this position. I'm available from 7 to 4. After work, after 4 p.m., I don't check my emails. I rarely answer calls. Because it's my time, right? Respect my time.
You were talking about you being able to mold the position to what you thought was best for you. Was that because of the leader you have, or was it you just
Yes.
standing out?
No, absolutely. I think when I first, I mean, she hired me with one phone call, right? I don't know. It's kind of one of those situations in life where the stars align, let's call it that, and you meet somebody that believes in you right away, and it's like, yeah, he's gonna do it. And ever since, she's taken me under her wing. I can honestly tell you that I love my boss, and she probably has the same feeling for me, right? She really values me as an employee. She sees my work ethic, and so she really has let me kind of take charge of how I want to make this position, regardless of the fact that the time when I first joined, I was only 25, 26. Didn't really know. I mean, I joined the team, and I didn't really have a full scope of what they did, what systems they used, all of that. She said, "We'll train you. We'll do it, and we'll just we'll be able to share with you how to do all of these different activities. We think you can do it." And so she just, one, took me under her wing, taught me what she knows, and two, then let let me expand and make this thing flourish to what it
So
is
what do
today.
you look for in a mentor, like your boss?
Somebody that's a couple things. One, understanding of where I come from, right? So that she can align her values to mine, and understand where
Mm-hmm.
I'm at right now and where I want to go, right? She knows everything about me regarding my background, right? My upbringing. She understands I'm a DACA recipient. Uh, she understands that I have been through some difficult things, some difficult times, right? And she just wants to do everything in her power to empower me, to take me to the next level, and to the extremes that she might even say things to me like, "Hey, I understand your time with me might be limited, so I want to help you achieve as much as you can during the
Mm-hmm.
time that you're with me, right?" And that really, to me, somebody that can go out of their way, right? And she's already, I think she's closer to the end of her career. She's already been with the company for
Mm-hmm.
like 20 years. I think she understands that a good boss understands your background, is willing to take you to the highest point in that
Mm-hmm.
position can offer, and then be able to hand you off to a different opportunity. That to me is what makes a good boss, essentially.
Switching gears here a little. What's something about you that most people familiar with your work don't know?
So what we do, my team focuses on creating pallet displays for Costco's, Staples, Office Depots. Seasonally, we
Mm-hmm.
stuff them with mice keyboards product basically, and it goes to either their DCs or their specific stores. Um, I think what they don't know is the amount of work that it takes to be able to ship one of those units.
Mm-hmm.
So normally product will be sourced from Asia, from India, from one of those factories to the United States in containers, right? A lot of companies do this. And that product hits a distribution center in the United States, right? That comes via an ocean container, gets delivered to the tracks, the railroads. And from the railroads, they get their containers to the distribution houses, and then from the distribution houses, they unload, they receive that product, and then they ship it out across the United States, Canada, Mexico, Latin America, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, you're just taking a box that's manufactured in China, you bring it to the U.S., and then you send it somewhere else in the United States. My team is a little bit more detailed than that. We actually manufacture a lot of the goods here. We take products, we basically build these things from scratch, build the puzzle together, build a
Mm-hmm.
finished good, and then once that finished good is completed, there are different system transactions that take place based on how customers order, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that goes into a whole different ball game. It's not just shipping a box. There's systematic numbers that need to match. So there's a lot of detail behind having a box be shipped from my team versus somebody else that's also shipping a box. And going back to that, for a while, I was over here doing my thing. I have a younger brother, and he would tell me, people ask me, what do you do? And I tell them that you ship boxes. And I kind of was like, that's not wrong, but it's also not all the way right because it's more complex than you're making it out to be. That I think would be like the biggest one that comes to mind at this time. That the complexity around
Mm-hmm.
shipping a box.
Talking about complexities, last year, COVID happened, and I know you said your sales increased because everybody working from home. Do you
Mm-hmm.
think that's going to change in the long run, where we're going to get better at
Yeah.
services?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah, I think so because in my personal experience, for one, the first year I put in a lot of processes in place. I standardized a lot of things. I put SOPs. I put in a lot of work. I was spending a lot of time face to face. So the same way that I established those processes and those SOPs and those standards, a lot of companies have already established those pre-COVID, right? A lot of those things
Okay.
already run, and you show up to a place to work, and you give your 2 cents in a meeting, and then go back to your desk and finish your work, and then it's time for another meeting. You jump back into a room. The way that I see the world evolving after COVID is that a lot of these interactions are going to happen via Zoom, via video conferencing, right? To enable us to be able to do our work from anywhere. And just to extend it a little bit further, looking forward to this next stage of my career at Logitech, I have already been. The company has allowed us to dictate whether we want to go to the office a couple of days, whether we want to full time, whether we want to stay home full time. And I personally, because I think I've already put in that time, I have requested that I work from home for indefinitely, right? And so I've been able to do this whole year, and I've been able to do it this whole year successfully, which is also makes a difference when you go up to your boss and say, hey, I think it makes sense for me to work from home and just be able to visit the facilities for when I really need to. And so the way that experience has happened for me, I can imagine it's going to happen for other companies that have already established SOPs, that have already done all that hard work, right, establishing the company to get to where it's at, so that going forward they can be able to do that.
What are some things that you've learned from previous mistakes you might have made, and how can you, what advice can you give someone looking into a career like yours?
Don't be afraid. I think, and that's a cliche one, right? But really, right, when opportunities open up and you feel that you can do it, do it. I think for me, my experience, I waited until I deemed that I had some time to start applying for new positions, that I could jump to the next level, right? That would be the first, right? Because I think you certainly at some point have to learn how to fly out the nest and understand that, it's going to be sink or swim, right? And I'm going to try and swim as hard as I can, right? That you have to go with the mentality. That would be first. Two, I would say, do your boot camp. Yeah, I certainly have had to do boot camp, right? And in this position that I'm in right now, I currently consider it boot camp as well. Because it's certainly going to help me to jump to the next step, right, to the next position. It's going to help. You got to do your boot camp, whether it means, I really, when I consider and look back where I started, I look at Pizza My Heart back in California. I worked there for 5 years while I was going to college. I was doing that full time, and I was also working. I was going to school full time, and then after that, I also joined Red Bull, and I had to learn that experience. And although I was in Red Bull guy, I became the Red Bull guy. And every year after that, it was just the same mentality, right? Get boot camp, get your boot camp done, and that will ensure that your training for the next position will be adequate.
What are some of your plans for this year? Do you have any goals, or have you reached any that you've set?
Yes. I have accomplished quite a bit in the last year, I'll be honest. I ended up getting married in October.
Nice.
So,
Congratulations.
I'm married for a couple months now, yeah. Two, speaking, I'm a DACA recipient. She's an American citizen, so we want to get my residency done so that, I don't have to worry about that anymore. Two, I'm 6 months away. 3 days ago, and actually this was a conversation I was having with my wife. 3 days ago was my 6-month cutoff time till I turn 30. So my objective between then and now is to turn the switch on, as I like to call it. And so what I want to do is work on my mental health, work on my physical health, work on my additional development. Work so that I can prepare myself for the next phase. Really, I want to show up to 30 in the best, as the best version of myself. But I can only imagine that's going to prepare me for the next stage of my life, right? That I think is the short-term goal, right, for the next 6 months. Long-term, it's a house is on the horizon, right? So, and the dream is really to go back to California, but one of my favorite sayings is, you want to make God laugh, tell him about your plans. So we will see what happens.
Nice. I want to ask a couple more questions about DACA. Being a DACA recipient, I feel like sometimes we have to stand out more to prove ourselves. Do you think that's true? Or is that just
no, 100% sure. No, 100% true. one, you come from a background where you've always had to fight adversity, right? English was not my first language, right? So I think about the times that I was bullied in school because I didn't know English, right? And then I learned English, and then I excelled, and then I started getting awards in elementary school, right? The next step was going to middle school. Are you good enough to take the AP classes or the advanced placement classes, right? Which I think, like look at it as the same thing. And then high school, right, was key because at the time that I joined high school, there wasn't a DACA program. There was no way of knowing if I was going to be able to go to college, right? And even then I graduated. There was still no DACA. And while all my friends were still applying for different colleges, and being from California, you heard people saying, "I'm applying to Berkeley. I'm applying to Santa Clara. I'm applying to Stanford," right? And me sitting there, right, knowing that I had to be very careful about which schools I applied to, because one, it was like whatever cost, right, it was to apply, right? There's a fee to apply. You just can't take an application, submit it. There's a fee you have to pay. And I knew it had to come out of my parents' pockets, right? So I had to be very careful about that. So the whole time it feels like you're fighting an uphill battle, right? And going back to the mountain example, right? So you're constantly fighting to get to the same level, to be equal to your peers, to be equal to everybody around you. But at the same time, it never feels that way, right? There's always that concern, like what happens when DACA gets removed, or what happens if there was no DACA. I joined college without knowing that DACA was a thing, right? And knowing that I was going blind. I'm getting an industrial and systems engineering degree, and maybe I use it, maybe I don't. Maybe I have to work in a restaurant after this thing is all over, right? But thanks to DACA, I've been able to get in some really amazing companies. I mentioned them earlier, right? And it seems really good on paper, right? I've learned a lot. I've gone to a good place in my career, and now I can be level, right? And so going back to that example I shared with you about my dad, right, and my parents, and making more money than them, at that point, really, I was like, I'm in the big leagues, right? And so from here on out, I am not only competing against everybody else, but I'm competing against myself, because nobody else in my background, nobody else in my family has done this, right? And the expectations are not the same for me as they are for somebody else that's born here, right? Because equally, the opportunities aren't the same. You're not going to measure them the same. And yeah, to a certain extent, you're always trying to show off and demonstrate that you can be in the position that you're in.
I know I had a backup plan when we had a certain president. Did you have any backup plans in case, the DACA program?
I didn't. No, I did not. My backup plans, as I set them now, sound ridiculous. My backup plans were to go back to Mexico. That was my backup plan. That or end up in the restaurant business, right? Be able to work under the table. But neither of those were going to be fulfilling. Neither of those were going to fulfill my potential. And so thankfully that didn't happen, right? But it was very close. And it actually, during that time, it aligned with the time that I was supposed to come to Memphis, right? To work for Logitech full time. So not only did I have to make a big decision on moving from California to Memphis, right, to Tennessee itself, I also had to consider, can this happen? Because I don't know what's going to happen with my permit. Thankfully, that didn't go through. There was pushback from judges, from the judicial system, right? And so, thankfully, I'm still here today.
Yeah, I definitely do. I feel the same way.
A nerve-wracking time, I'll tell you.
It was super nerve-wracking.
I was on edge a lot, yes.
My backup plan was Canada.
Canada.
Yeah, I have some contacts there, so that was gonna be my backup plan. Thankfully, it didn't happen because I feel like I would have fallen in love with Vancouver and never want to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, so is there anything that we did not cover that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, maybe as a last minute message, right? Because I don't know what the audience looks like for this, right? But I know I come from a background of where not everybody makes it, right? I'm very aware of the position that I'm in. I think people in our position have to be able to speak out and be those advocates for people that don't have the same opportunities, right? I think of my cousins, I think of my friends that come from similar backgrounds and never make it, right? Because there wasn't money for school, because they got here too late, because DACA isn't available to them. And I think about the privilege that it is to be here today, right? And say proudly that, to a certain extent, because, capitalism and all that good stuff, but I'm in corporate America. I am in corporate America. I am a part of it. I am the man. I am the guy that's making it happen for Logitech and the North American region. I'm the one that is calling the shots. And so it's people like us that are in these positions to be able to speak up and make change, right? Whether it's making change in diversity, right? Making change in education, making change in social norms and structures. It's up to us to really be able to drive that change by either creating direct awareness to people that are willing to listen to our stories, or to be able to show up for the causes that call it, right? It doesn't always have to be about Hispanics. It can be about different races. It can be about different groups. But when the momentum is going, feel free to partake and at the same time also be cautious, right? Not to overwhelm yourself with all these different causes that come along, because one individual, unless you're Bill Gates, you're not going to change the world, right? So you just have to be cautious of that. But the causes that you do see, that you feel that you can have a voice in, don't be afraid. I think for our position, for a long time, we were afraid, right? And there's always that fear to speak out because you're not from here, because as rough as it sounds, you're an illegal immigrant, right? And that shouldn't stop us anymore, right? That the time where we were scared is over. The time to make change is now.
How do you think companies can embrace more inclusivity across the board?
Doing a lot of the things that my CEO is doing. That's another blessing that I have. My CEO has been kick-ass, if I can say that on radio.
You're fine.
He has been amazing. I mean, in regards to diversity and in regards to being the voice and being able to, because there's always going to be backlash, right, from individuals that disagree with you. But he has made it a point to say, no, this is wrong. This is what we're going to do. Here's I invite you guys to look him up. His name is Bracken. Daryl Bracken from Logitech, and he has made some very strong opinions, strong messages, strong statements about what it means to be a good human being and what it means to take it to the next level, right? And so on our fronts, we have a couple of different things that are happening at this time. We're working to be more diverse, whether it means directly or indirectly, right? By bringing in partners that are diverse. To becoming aware of what's happening to the environment, right, and becoming more aware and creating processes that are sustainable, sustainable-minded. Creating spaces for education, right? We're driving that by understanding that our products enhance the ability to learn from home, to have disabilities, to be able to help people with disabilities, right? A lot of those different things, like those three that I just mentioned, are things that my company is strongly in favor of, right? And it helps that this, right? When the leadership is the one that's calling the shots and saying those things, that's when you're really making a difference.
I definitely agree with that. Well, Fernando, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. You guys take care.
Thanks for listening. To learn more, visit fcpservices.com. Until next time, remember, people drive growth.